Hey, what is up, everyone? This is Gary A. Swaby, and you're now listening to the Powercast. And we are back after a week break. Um, and, you can blame stars for that one because they seem to like taking breaks. And, during these breaks, the bootleggers tend to come out, so that's all I'll say. But yeah, today we are going to be recapping Power Book 2 Ghost Season 3, Episode 9, A Last Gift. And of course, I am joined by Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. How are you doing, Rich?
Doing good, Gary. What's up, listeners and viewers?
What's up, indeed? And I see you got your little nickname there. It says SEC officer. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I was very active in helping to take down Weston Holdings in this episode. You didn't see me on camera because, again, budget concerns, but it sounds like I was needed throughout this entire week to also take down the people responsible for leaking these episodes. So, yeah, that's absolutely ridiculous. But don't worry, we're not going to spoil nothing on this episode. But yeah, we are going to talk about a few things for sure.
Oh yeah. We're definitely not going to spoil anything for the people who are following legitimately. But yeah, the bootlegs are out there. We saw it
Well,
before the bootlegs anyway. But
Well,
yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
just to clarify, we're not going to spoil episode 10. Obviously, we're going to talk about episode 9. All right. So I just want to clarify
Oh
that.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
but yeah,
exactly. That's what I meant. I
yeah,
meant we're not going to spoil episode 10, but obviously episode 9. This is all about
yeah,
episode 9 today. So Uh,
absolutely.
but yeah, SEC officer, and you're right about the budget thing because they definitely blew the budget on this episode, on episode 9. Like you see who was in
Yeah.
this episode, So,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
but we are also joined by Miss Dana Abercrombie, aka Many Men. What's up, Dana?
Many men, they wish death upon me. Blood in my eyes, and I don't know the rest of the words. But the point is, it's back.
I can tell you like all the lyrics right now.
I'm loving all the lyrics, especially the part where it says many men. Because, there's
Yeah,
many, many, many men
yeah.
in the men
So I
of
can
many.
I can guess that you have a parallel to paint a little later that kind of connects with the song and the story. So I can't wait to hear what you have to
Maybe.
say.
I just also want to shed a spotlight on the fact that this song has like had a resurgence of this year. You had it in AEW and the way how it was framed and used with the guns, the gun the tag team, not actual guns. For those who don't watch AEW, they're like guns, but the tag team, the guns, and how that was framed, and then many men came up, and they was in New York, and then this with Tommy coming back, and we're getting a crossover. So high five to many men.
Yeah, and it's actually 20 years exactly since that song came out. Like came out 20 years ago. So um, very very
Well,
special
many men
song,
are old
special
right now.
album.
Jesus, 20 years.
Oh yeah,
More like many
yeah.
old men. Many.
I definitely feel old because I was in college when that came out, and yeah, it's crazy to think that's 20 years ago. But anyway, um, we are here to talk about Power. I know the people are excited, and this episode, wow, crazy episode. Um, so there is lots to talk about, but before we get there, before we get to the takeaways, I just want to remind the people, please do show your support. Hit the like button. It's very important. Do leave your comments. Let us know, what you think. Try not to talk too much about episode 10, just in case there are people who don't want spoilers. I know we all know what happens, but try to kind of just focus on 9 for this, for this particular video. But definitely let us know your thoughts. And yeah, hit the subscribe button also and be on the lookout for more content in the future. And yeah, so with that out the way, we can get right into our takeaways. And it is my turn actually to go first this week. So I'm going to go ahead and dive right into this. Okay, so first thing I really liked about this episode is because we know episode 8 was such a major episode as well, with how it ended, with Saxe, being killed by Theo Rawlings. Like, that was a major thing. So what I liked about episode 9 is that it didn't kind of just carry on. Like, it made you feel that loss. Like, there were real consequences throughout this whole episode of Saxe, being killed. And we saw that he had contingency plans as well. And we see those plans play out throughout this episode. So clearly, this guy, he was he was a deeper character than we thought, because he had all of this stuff as backup. So he was kind of expecting at some point to possibly, get caught and potentially get killed. So he had all of this stuff planned. Like, just to think that was kind of crazy, and it adds some more depth to his character. And even though, through all of these years we've been watching Power, I kind of saw him as an annoying character, because he's the guy that's always kind of, like, trying to expose the main characters, and he's being slimy and backstabby and stuff. But this episode just kind of added some more depth after the fact, and it just kind of empowers the performance of the actor even more. Like, it makes the character feel more important to the show. You kind of feel his the weight that he had on the show, because he has been there since the very first season of Power. So I like that they did so much with him passing away in this episode. Like, you really felt the consequence. So they did a great job with that. We had the scenes where Jenny was kind of mourning him. I mean, first of all, she was the one to kind of see his body and stuff, and she saw his body in the morgue and reacted to it, broke down in tears and stuff. And then you have the scene later on where she receives a letter from Saxe, and he's kind of trying to calm her down and get her to, like, walk away from the case and stuff, because these people are dangerous. But she doesn't she doesn't take his advice, of course. She instead she doubles down, and she vows to take them all out, basically make them all pay. So yeah, there's that. And then we see other things happen with Saxe. First of all, Monet gets a letter from Saxe, and he's trying to tell her that Tariq is the snitch, basically. So that kind of it plants a sense of doubt in Monet's mind, I guess. And then Diana as well, kind of hits them a little bit. So that was interesting. And then we have the whole 2-bit Tommy thing, which I'm going to talk about a bit more in a sec. But yeah, like, my first takeaway is really just I like that they did so much with Saxe's death. They didn't just move on. They made you really feel it. Like, it meant something. This death actually meant something. So I liked that. Okay, second takeaway is Monet and the Tejada family. So Monet's lies have finally kind of caught up to her in this episode. So first of all, we see that Evelyn comes to visit Monet and stuff, and she's kind of confronting her over the whole Gordo thing. And Drew overhears the conversation, and then when Evelyn's gone, Kane is there as well, and he basically decides that we need to take them out now, because they know too much now, and so we see them take out the whole they wipe out the whole Castillo family, which that's it's a little underwhelming how it happened. I have to say that, because like we're talking about a whole family here, like a whole like how many brothers were there? Like there were like 5 brothers or something, but it felt like 12 because there was just like so many extras in that family. But yeah, like it was just the way they wiped out the whole family. I mean, first he took out Gordo, and now just in one fell swoop they take out the whole Castillos. Like it felt like they weren't even a concern in the first place, just how easy it was. But with that being said, they took them out, and with Evelyn's dying breath, she manages to tell Drew exactly what happened, with Monet. Like Monet is the one that wanted, Lorenzo killed. So she manages to tell Drew that right before he kind of he covers her mouth, nose and mouth, so that she dies quicker. And then we have this scene later on where Diana and Drew are kind of talking through what they've learned. By this point, Diana has kind of confronted Tariq, and she sneaks into his room and she finds the document, the Whitman document and stuff. So yeah, they kind of talk through their theories, they bounce around their theories, and they come to the conclusion that, Lorenzo killed Zeke, and then Monet retaliated by killing him. And Kane walks in and backs this up because, of course, he already knew this stuff. He just didn't tell them, but he walks in and backs up their story, and then they decide that they're gonna go and confront Monet, and we kind of get a nice little payoff scene of them bickering, like they're arguing back and forth. Things get really heated between Monet and Diana. She's yelling at Diana and stuff. And her whole thing is basically, I did all this to protect you. And their whole thing is that, we can't trust you because, you might turn on us and take us out and stuff. And Monet is just very obnoxious, and, she's pushing them and challenging them to fight and stuff. So it was a very, very interesting scene, very intense, and lots of drama. And I have to say, I kind of liked it. I liked this scene. It's one of those kind of like dinner scenes that Dana likes, where they're all the dinner table scene is one of those. So I kind of like. Well, you're unmuted, Dana. Okay, there you go. But yeah, I really enjoyed the scene. And yeah, it feels like all of Monet's lies are catching up to her. Obviously, there's more stuff that's going to happen. But for this episode in particular, I really liked, that moment of her lies finally hitting her in the face, and her family learning the truth, like, seeing her true nature and stuff. So that was great stuff right there. And then final takeaway. So first we see 2-Bit return, and this is all coming off of the whole Saxe, thing. He sent letters to everyone, and he sent particular letters to 2-Bit telling him Tariq's family location. And I do like that they followed up on that from the previous episode, where because in that episode, that was one of Saxe's threats to Tariq, where he said, if anything happens to me, I have the location of your family, and I can, wherever. So I like that they did follow up on that and make that mean something. And wow, it meant a lot. And first we see 2-Bit show up, and we haven't seen him since season 1. I remember us thinking that we were going to see him in Force. We thought we were going to see him in season 2 of Ghost, but we haven't seen him in a very long time. And I mean, we saw him briefly when he argued with Diddy on Halloween. If you saw that viral video Diddy dressing up like the Joker. We saw 2-Bit then, but besides that, we haven't seen 2-Bit since season 1 Ghost. So it was great to see the character return. And that was a major pop right there. Like I was cheering at that point. And then they have the whole exchange where 2-Bit wants his money back that Tariq still owes him. And Tariq is basically like, I don't have the money, but you can have drugs and guns basically. And then 2-Bit's like, give me the car too, and he literally takes Tariq's car, which was really cool because we see the moment that Tariq got the car in episode 2 or 3. I forget which one, but we saw that moment of glee that Tariq had when he got the car. And even the Tejadas commented on it, Drew and Kane and stuff. And then now, we see him lose the car, and it's all because of his previous dealings with 2-Bit and stuff. So that was kind of cool to see. And obviously it was in exchange for the location of where his mother is. And then he actually goes there. He drives 2-Bit's old hoopty or whatever it is. He drives he drives the car to the spot, and he watches outside and he sees his mother. He sees his grandmother. There's guards there as well, and he kind of steps out of his car a little bit, and then Yaz is there. Yaz is walking. She's walking home and stuff. So clearly they're kind of comfortable with their location. They're comfortable enough to let Yaz walk around by herself and stuff like that. But yeah, he has a little moment with Yaz, and then we see the car pull up. Tommy's car. Right away, like everyone knows his car by now. So as soon as we saw it, we was like, what? Like, what am I watching? Now, like, I had a out of this world moment, when this happened, because for a second, I thought my screener was messed up. Like, I thought they sent me like episode 8 of season 1 or something. Like, I thought, did they tape over this with an old episode or something? Like, I thought I'd seen this already, but it was actually real. Like, Tommy was there, and Tommy stepped out of the car. He killed the guards and he walked in the house. And I was like, wow, what is happening? Like, at this point, I was like, I can't believe my eyes. I can't believe what I'm seeing, because I wasn't expecting this at all. I don't think anybody was expecting it, really, unless you had it spoiled for you. But I hope everyone didn't have it spoiled for them, because it was a major moment, like just seeing that. And then, we see Tommy go after Tasha, in the house. He raises the gun. He's got a score to settle with her because she ratted him out and stuff. And then Tariq knows that he has to do something, so he makes his way to the house. And then we have a face-off between Tariq and Tommy, and Tasha is surprised to see Tariq as well. You have all these different emotions and interactions going on, and it's amazing. And Tariq, he drops a few lines that I believe were in the trailer, where he says, wait, was that this episode? I don't know, but he threatens Tommy. I don't want to misquote anything and say the wrong line, but but yeah. Yeah, it was an intense moment that they both have their guns held high. It looks like, it's like, who's going to shoot first? One of the guards comes in, and, Tommy shoots him down. And then, we have this moment of confusion where Tariq is knocked out. And, I don't want to talk about what happens in episode 10, but just that moment right there where he gets knocked out and then it goes black, and then he wakes up in the hospital. Like, that was like, wow, because we didn't know who knocked him out. Like, it could have been anybody. But when we first saw that, we thought that could have been anybody that knocked him out. So there was a lot of speculation just from that moment about what really happened in that room. And then Tameika, when Tariq wakes up, Tameika is there, and she tells him basically, she tells him the bad news that, well, first of all, the good news is that Yaz and his grandmother are okay. And then the bad news that Tasha is missing, and then we see that shocked look on Tariq's face, like, and he wants out of there immediately. Like, he's trying to pull all of the tubes out and needles, and I'm cringing a little because I hate needles, but but yeah. Yeah, it was just amazing. Like that last sequence of this episode made the entire season for me. Like this is hands down my favorite episode of Ghost in, probably like out of all of them. This is one of my favorite episodes right here, because just the way they dropped that was so unexpected and so incredible. Like they did a great job. And then even before that moment, they did a great job with the episode. And of course, a lot more happened in the episode. Like we had the whole Weston Holdings fiasco that happened, which we're going to talk about a little bit. But yeah, this episode was amazing because there were a lot of payoffs. A lot of things that they've been building up kind of happened. If this was a finale, I would have been satisfied with that being the finale of the season. This episode was that good. So yeah, that's my analysis. That's my breakdown on this episode. It was very amazing. I loved it. But yeah, I'm definitely curious to see what you guys are gonna have to say about it now. Can't wait to hear your thoughts as well. So I'm going to go ahead and give the floor to Miss Dana Abercrombie. So, Dana, when you're ready, hit us with your takeaways.
You stole my takeaways, so I have to revise my takeaways. It's all your fault. Boo you. What's really interesting is we finally got a body from Brayden that was solely Brayden. He didn't have to have help. He manned up and did it. And I think it took anger and frustration. And I had an argument back and forth whether or not it was a full body with intent to murder or if it was a manslaughter body. But he done killed his uncle, y'all. He pushed him out the balcony and he fell and tumbled to his death below. It wasn't something brutal. It wasn't a shooting. It wasn't even beating to death, but it was something. And so we are finally seeing the evolution of Brayden. And I love how, even though this show, it focuses, it's on Ghost, obviously Ghost, but not Ghost, sorry. It's on Tariq, Ghost Book 2, the chapter of Ghost. But it also is fully developing, it's what would you call the side characters, who are just as important. And that kind of goes with what Gary is saying. Saxe was there from the beginning. I believe, not episode 1, season 1, but like still in season 1. And to give him this final kind of goodbye piece, but also tie it in all together with all the loose strings that everyone had going forward, even from the original Ghost to now with Ghost with book 2 and 2-bit. I really liked how they did that. It felt to me like a great send-off. We didn't get a funeral, but it just overall seemed like a really great, I got the last laugh. And he wasn't able to get Ghost or get the things that he really wanted to truly accomplish in the first iteration. But he got what was important. He got the Sunish in a way. He got the son because we got Tommy. And he knew the rivalry and the hatred that Tommy has. So I thought that was just a really beautiful way to end the character. So with Brayden, we're getting the evolution of Brayden. We're getting the, I want to be friends with you, to, let's do drug dealing because it seems fun, to, no, I really like doing this, because it's something that makes me happy to, him slowly evolving into having to do the dirty work, having to, separate himself from the family. Because remember that whole, I think it was in this episode and the previous episode, where he was like, he's walking away from his family, essentially. And even when his father said, you have to do the things that you may not want to do, he didn't kill his uncle. So I think that this death is more important than to say the random Russian guy who was the connect. This has more meaning and more impact. And not only that, in a way, it's freeing to, yes, him stepping away from the family, but you could argue it's freeing the family itself because of that whole Ponzi scheme situation. Now, here's something that I don't know, that I wonder if it's going to tie into either the finale or into the next season. Remember, right before he died, Lucas made that phone call to Jen and them, basically saying, I want complete immunity. I have to sneeze. Sorry. So sorry. I want complete immunity. And with that, I want you to look into Coinbase, Coinstar, CoinDog, Coin something, Coin Crash. Crash Coin. I was close. Dyslexic. I had it right. Point is, I wanted you to look into Crash Coin. And not only look into Crash Coin, but this whole thing is drugs that's involved. And they know that this could connect to Stanfield, which connects back to Tariq and Brayden. So here's the thing. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know how that works. But I don't think immunity is like, hey, I'm going to just talk to you over the phone. And say like, yeah, you're immune. So this could still all be used. And the whole family is still could be involved with this whole situation. And well, of course, I would be like, well, he's not immune, but he's kind of technically permanently immune from any charges because, so I hope that they use this and don't drop this storyline come the next season. On top of that, what was very interesting, I also have to say, I hated that entire death sequence with the family, Evelyn's family, because it felt too convenient. And it felt like there was a lot more ways for the gas to escape. You have the back room, the other rooms. You telling me all the windows and all the doors were closed? That doesn't make any sense. So, yeah, good luck with that. And then on top of that, it just wasn't impactful. It wasn't effective. This is someone that had ties to the family. They held each other's secrets. They killed each other's family members. And it just felt blasé to me. It felt like something that was a throwaway. And I really didn't like that. I wanted it to be more impactful. Even if you was to copy The Mayor of Kingstown, season 2, episode 3. Not to spoil what happened here happens, but there was a huge house shootout. There was a shootout in a house that was very brutal and very violent, and it felt very personal. I wanted that. That would have been more impactful for everyone to know this is what happened. Because remember, technically, only Evelyn knew what was happening, that she was dying and who did it. I want something that was like very personal. I did it. I have to take you out because I don't want to start a war. Not no, and then I'm dead. What are we doing with that? That's corny. And it felt to me overall like it was just a throwaway. Like, oh, we wrote ourselves into this problem. Here's quickly how we write ourselves out of it. I didn't like that. And here's another thing, and this is why I still continue to not stand Drew. Drew causes all this mess and all this chaos, and he never cleans up his own mess. And you could argue and say, well, he shot Gordo. Yes, but you notice how Kane was right there. And to me, it seemed like Kane was going to do it. It just so happened that he found out, so he did it. And even then, that wasn't impactful for me as a viewer. But what's interesting is this. This is what he says to the family. After Evelyn was like, I saw the tape. I saw it. I know he was involved. He says, this is my mess. And then it's followed by, you ready? We got to take them out. You're taking responsibility. Now, you're saying, this is my mess. Clearly, I started this. So this means to me, we're going to be responsible today. We're going to be an adult. We're going to be everything that you think you are. But then Kane says, we got to take them out. But instead of saying, if Kane's saying that, no, this is my mess. I have to take that out. This is when, this to me is the opportune time to step up and to be a leader. And instead, this is a we thing. It's a we thing again. And I hate that with my soul. And it's like, yeah, we're brothers. We're in it to the end. But at the same time, I want you to take responsibility for the actions that you have created. And you're not doing that. And I cannot stand this character. And this is more why, once again, Kane is the one who is the leader. He's the leader in action. He's the leader in words. He's the leader in everything. And Drew, please just, like, you serve no purpose. Go to college or die. Because why are you here? I don't like it. Another thing about this situation is that I feel that overall, this was very good. And we have to bring in Tommy. And you can argue Tommy is in this because this is a loose end that has to be tied up. We've known this. They have this blood rivalry. Ever since, we always had this blood rivalry going back and forth, going back from the original Power. But to me, one or two things. We're writing this to finally close the chapter on this. I hope whomever it is wins this and we move on. But here's the thing. We know that Tommy still has his own show, right? And we have all come to the consensus it's not very good. In terms of the Power structure of shows, remember how we was all like, I don't want to see a Tariq show. This is going to be terrible. I want to see a Tommy show. That's going to be amazing. And then we got the Tariq show. We're like, oh my God, it's amazing. And then we got the Tommy show. And it's like, who is this? I don't like this Tommy. This could be one of two things in terms of we're getting the old Tommy back. All that whole the whole, remember when he went into Force and was like, I'm a new Tommy. I'm going to be calmer. I'm going to be nicer. I got a brother now. And what is it? It could be a nephew. So to me, it just feels like this could be us getting that old Tommy back because this is a rivalry that he has to dead. Or this could be him closing the chapter on that old Tommy life. I don't know what it is. I like the fact that they brought in Tommy, but I'm wondering if they brought in Tommy only to save Force and to put eyes back onto Force. Because no disrespect to the actor, Joseph Sikora, no disrespect to any of the actors on those shows. My issue is with the writing. And I know you want to create something where there's a different Tommy, there's a new Tommy, but why do we watch Force? Because of the old Tommy. This new Tommy, I don't know what y'all doing. Like, it's nice to show a multifaceted Tommy, but when you focus too much on I'm new and improved and calm and zen, that's not gonna sell all of us. I want the Tommy who came in there with the machine gun to blow out Proctor. Remember that scene, how ridiculously over the top? That was some Scarface scenes right there. And so with this, and to me, it gave me a small light and a chance that we're getting a little Tom. We're getting our old Tommy back. And therefore, I feel that could make Force Season 2 a bit stronger. We're getting that old Tommy back. I don't know if this is crossover in terms of it's going to start bleeding into the show over there. This would be interesting. Also, it killed another bird with all the stones in terms of viewerships. Now, yes, the viewership is high, but wouldn't it be a little bit higher if we had some crossover? See, that's the only problem that I have with this. When I spoke to the cast during, I believe it was the upfronts last year for the first season of Force, Joseph Sikora and 50 Cent were very upset that people were like, well, who's coming back on the show? This is the show. This is our own identity. And I agree with that. I believe that the show should have its own identity. But there comes a point when you have to kind of recognize something is not working, and maybe just bleeding in some of the other characters, interweaving them just a little bit, is not going to hurt, but could help. Maybe it's just me, but there's something about that nostalgia factor that actually is successful. It doesn't mean that you have to rely on it, but with this, why did we all cheer when we saw Tommy? I was on the toilet when I saw it, when Tommy, that car came in, and I was like, no. And then we saw Tommy's face, and I'm screaming hysterically on the toilet, and everyone's thinking that I'm dying or I don't know what's going on. But there's a reason as to why I scrumped my scream when I saw Tommy on the toilet. And that was solely because, there's that beautiful nostalgic feel of he is one of the best characters that is written today, but his own show needs some help. So just help the brother out. And maybe this could be a little crossover. There's nothing wrong with crossovers. We get it all the time. All American had all the crossovers. That's okay. Do it. And so the fact that we have, him finally going and maybe killing Tasha. Tasha's being kidnapped. Maybe she's in the woods somewhere dying and bleeding out. Who knows? But this could be something that's incredible and amazing and a little way bit more impactful than the gangs of, what are we, in Chicago? I don't care. Not Chicago, but I care about with what's happening with Tasha. And why didn't you kill the baby? Why didn't you kill Yaz? Or the grandma? Grandma's been slightly annoying. I'm okay with grandma dying. Why didn't you kill grandma? But that's my rant on Tommy. I'm very happy to see him back. Sorry. Very happy to see him back. I look forward to more surprises. And I think that was number 2 or number 3 or number something, but I just want to sneak in here very quickly. The fact that I don't like Lauren. I think Lauren is slightly just annoying at this point. I understand that she's isolated and everything else, but here's the thing. Lauren sent a text message to Tariq that said, heard the guards talking. Saxe is dead. Is that you? Not every murder that's committed is going to be Tariq. I understand. I do not blame you in your lack of trust issues. Granted, she literally was almost murdered. Okay, the circle, while Tariq doesn't know, technically, and he had nothing to do with that, those were still Tariq's friends that was doing it for Tariq. But Lauren at this point is becoming very annoying. I'm not a fan, so we're going to have to, please get rid of this character, because it just seems like it's just lingering. And I don't mean kill. Write her off the show or do something, because it's slowly just getting there. It's becoming slightly annoying. And Effie, also, I love Effie. I wish that Lauren had the stamina that Effie had. But granted, they're 2 different people from 2 different worlds, so that's not going to ever happen, I don't think. I hope the situation toughens her up so that whomever deals with her in the future, are not annoyed by her and then try to kill her, because she's just that annoying. But I do love Effie's stamina in this episode, in terms of lawyer. People are blocking her from making the phone call, from trying to get a lawyer with this case, and she's still staying strong. She's not turning coat, at least right now at this moment. It does not seem like it. We don't know, but she seems to be very loyal. I appreciate her. I wish she was appreciated more, but I understand why she's not appreciated. The whole situation with Kane made it seem like he was just using her. I don't know what's going on. Remember they had that fight. I don't know, but I really do like Effie and what's going on with this. So that's all of my rant, aside from the season is almost ending, and Mary J. Blige is still not taking an acting class, and I would like that to happen, please.
Excellent takeaways. I like what you said about about questioning Tommy's appearance and asking, is it for marketing reasons to help promote Force, or is it a solid story? Because that's something I thought about too. Like, is this a marketing stunt, to kind of boost up Force because they know what happened in the first season? Not everyone liked it, So I like that you said that. And yeah, go ahead, Dana,
Because if you,
and then Rich.
sorry.
Yeah.
No, I was going to just say really quickly, because if you really look at it, take away Tommy's appearance from the show completely, the show was fine. It was completely fine without him. And I'm not saying we don't need him. It's nice to have you. Well, why are you here? I mean, we already did the crossover with Force when we saw Tasha and them in Force, I believe. Was it not in Force?
No, that was
Or am I confused?
you mean book 2, season 1.
Sorry, in book 2, season 1, we already got Tommy. So that was really nice. But are you going to just keep making up? I don't understand why bring him back now. And if you're like, oh, tying loose ends, man was so focused on his new goals, and y'all done cursed me out all throughout the season when I asked the question about is there any crossover? And I understand you wanted to keep your secret, and I'm all for keeping secrets, but you blessed me out to the point where I was like, well, I'm just stupid for asking. Because you were so gung-ho and stating that you were focused on this show and stating that you're focused on this story. You don't need other characters. And I'm for you. Be your own person. Be your own show. But why are you back now? I'm happy to see you. Welcome. Have some cookies. Take your shoes off. Go take a nap if you need to. The game is on. I make snacks. But why are you here? What do you want from me or us in general?
And Rich was going to say something as well.
Well, I just was going to say, I'm pretty sure we will get an answer to why he is back in the future. But I just want to say to the question that was asked, is this a marketing stunt by Starz? 100% yes, it is. Because Joseph Sikora sent out a tweet the other day saying, season 2 Force announcement coming within the next 10 days. If you know how to do math, this show comes out on Friday. Obviously, everyone's watching now. It's out now on Friday. So yeah, that announcement is either going to happen sometime this weekend if it hasn't happened already. So stay tuned for that.
Oh yeah, I fully expect this to. I expect Force to kind of premiere right as Ghost goes off. Like it's probably going to be something like that. If not, then maybe a week later. But I feel like it's going to be right after. Just the way this has been done. This has been handled. But yeah, those were great takeaways, Dana. I loved what you said there. We'll talk more about it in a little bit because I do have a discussion point about Force and everything. But yeah, Richard, do hit us with your takeaways when you're ready.
Okay, first and foremost, excellent takeaways by Dana and Gary as always. Let me start by saying this was the best episode of Ghost this entire season. I don't know if I'm going to say it's the best of the entire show because I still like that heist episode they had last season. So, but this, without a doubt, was the best episode of this entire season for all the things that you both said. Now, I do have 3 takeaways I'm going to get into here. I'm going to start first with Saxe, Jenny, and Blanca in this episode. So we do see that because I did see, first and foremost, last week was episode 8 was a great episode. I know a lot of people were speculating that Saxe could still be alive, and I laughed when I saw those comments because clearly you saw this guy get shot in the chest. Now he was twitching afterwards, but clearly this character was dead. But also that same week, the actor that plays him, Shane Johnson, was going around on different shows, saying yes, the character is dead. So I mean, you knew everything right there. But I like how even though he died, he still lived on in terms of trying to ruin everyone's lives, mainly Tariq St. Patrick. So give him props for that. But yeah, the episode started where Jenny and them, they did identify Saxe's body. And then Jenny, of course, as Gary said, she had a bit of a breakdown Obviously, we know that they were in a relationship together. Saxe took it seriously. Jenny was playing a lot of these games, so and we already knew that it wasn't going to end well for those two. So it is what it is. But we did see that Saxe did send Jenny a letter telling her to let things go, and obviously she's not going to, because she had an opportunity to protect Saxe. We saw last week in episode 8, when she had made the comment to him, well, I can't protect you anymore now because everything, fell apart with the sugar when they tried to lock up Effie. So obviously she feels some guilt that he got killed, and she's still going to want to go after Tariq and take down everybody involved. So we shall see what happens. But two very important things that we do get from this episode in regards to what's happening with these particular characters. Now, they do end up running into Davis later in this episode, and they let him know that they saw the surveillance of him passing that note over to Diana. So I'm very curious to see what happens in the future with Davis. It feels like he still has a target on his back, but I want to see how they're going to utilize this particular thing to try to take him down. And then also, as you both alluded to about the crash coin stuff and the fact that Lucas made that call, obviously we saw that Brayden took out Lucas in this episode. And I was glad to see that Brayden finally caught a body, but I will say this, from a forensic standpoint, this Lucas stuff is just getting started. So I want to see where they go from here, because I'm pretty sure they're going to investigate this. They're going to probably come to the conclusion that he was possibly pushed or he jumped, but it wouldn't make sense for him to jump, especially after he gave them information that's to say that he wanted protection. So I look forward to seeing how they're going to handle that. But yes, as far as what happened in that episode with these characters, I thought everything was great. It moved everything forward in a way that I didn't expect. Going to my second takeaway, we need to talk about the Tejada family. Now, I will say this, and I know that Gary and Dana, you did not mention this. I just want to say this. I enjoyed seeing Kane whoop Tariq's ass in this episode. It's a very brief fight, but they're showing you that Kane can hold his own against Tariq. And I know we saw in a previous episode Tariq beating up Brayden. Well, now this lets you know, because again, they didn't give Tariq, he didn't even get a hit on Kane. So that lets you know, yeah, I think Tariq has met his match, and I look forward to seeing these two characters when they have another confrontation, because there definitely will be another confrontation in the future. I think we all know that's going to happen, so I look forward to seeing what happens when that goes down. But we did see, again, Saxe sent a letter to Monet, basically telling her that this entire time Tariq has been working with the feds. So after that, she now is very suspicious of Tariq. Of course, she does get Diana to basically do some snooping, and Diana does the snooping and finds the file that was hidden, the Kevin Whitman file that had Lorenzo's prints on it. So I do like the fact that they finally get a chance to confront Monet in this episode, and basically, it leaves you wondering what's going to happen next. But one thing I do want to say, and again, I think that the three of us are on the same page. I'm very curious to see what all the commenters think, but I was very, very underwhelmed with how they handled this Castillos situation. Because again, it's like I had said on this show a couple of weeks ago, I would love to see the Castillos versus the Tejadas, right? Because this entire season, Gordo, obviously, he cares about Drew. That was his love interest, and then he gets taken out. But he always was fighting. He always was in a position where he's trying to basically do things to help out Drew. And we know that Gordo's brothers did not like Drew. There was some tension that we saw in the previous episodes between how they interacted with Drew. That's why, from a writing standpoint, I would have wanted them to have a much better standoff. Now, obviously, there are more brothers than there are of the Tejadas, because it's only Kane and Drew versus about, I think it was 3 or 4 brothers that they had. So I understand. I guess they didn't want to take that route, because then you're going to have to say, well, somebody might get hurt in this shootout. One of the Castillos might get hurt. But I still think that was far too easy for them to take them out that way, because it robbed us of the potential of the family trying to get some type of revenge. This entire season, it felt as though Evelyn was the catalyst to say they wanted some justice for what happened to Lorenzo. And you saw they took out Lorenzo, but I'm just thinking to myself, after you take out Lorenzo, It would have been great to see them try to avenge their brother Gordo, and they didn't even get an attempt to do any of that. So I'm not really happy with that decision. I understand they want to make the Tejadas look as though they are superior in every way, shape, or form. That's why they did not have them falter against them. But I would have went in a different direction to make it a little bit more exciting. But it is what it is. And then, of course, the whole thing about Evelyn confessing to Drew, that was very much a soap opera right there, drama, so to speak. That's what that because I mean, in the dying breath, that's the last thing that they're going to say. Oh yes, your mother did this. She Monet is responsible for all this. I thought that was a little, I'm like, whatever. But hey, it is what it is. It's entertaining, right? So I'm not really criticizing because again, I said this was the best episode of the season. I stand by that. That's just the only thing I didn't like because I wanted to see some type of showdown between these two families. But it's okay. We'll see what happens next. And finally, the final takeaway from this episode, all the stuff that happened with Tariq in this episode, the fact that this entire time he's obviously he's dealing with the stuff with Brayden, basically talking with Brayden back and forth about they got to do something to deal with Lucas. And of course, he does orchestrate this plan to try to buy himself time dealing with Noma, who was never on this show, by the way. So basically, he tells Obi, hey, I know you need green cards. Any way that I can help you, I'll help you. Obi tells me he needs the green card. So he's basically going to help out Obi to try to stall from telling Noma what's all happening with the business side. So we'll see what happens as far as that's concerned. But everything else that happened in the episode, as far as Lucas meeting his end, I thought that was excellent. I thought it was excellent that Brayden finally caught a body because he needed to do that. And like Dana mentioned, I want to see where the character goes from here. But again, we really have to emphasize the way they brought 2-Bit back into this storyline and the way they brought it back in Tommy. That was masterfully done. Now, 2-Bit has been gone. Like Gary said, this guy has been gone since season 1. So I wasn't expecting him to show up at any point, anytime soon. But so I'm glad that they saw him. And again, that was a nice payoff for that whole thing about Tariq getting that car, which now he no longer has. So that's great. Let's see what happens. But Tommy, this is what I want to say about Tommy. This is a clear sign. I mean, they've already told us that Gary Linden is taking over as the showrunner of the second season of Force. This to me is a clear sign to let people know Force is going to be different than what it was last season. Because with this guy coming in to take over, who actually has worked on the original Power, this is why you saw glimpses of the original Tommy coming back into the fold. So it makes me very excited to see that. And obviously it's funny because as Gary mentioned, when he saw this screener, he was like, oh, well, I wonder if I'm watching an old episode of Power. Well, when I saw this, it's funny because normally when we watch this stuff, we don't really talk about what happens. We said, oh, yeah, we'll talk about it after you see the episode. But Gary was like, hey, I just want you to watch the episode and enjoy the episode. He said that to me and Dana, so I didn't know what he meant. Then when I saw it, I said, oh, yeah, this is fantastic. So I think Courtney Kemp is a genius for bringing Tommy back into the fold. We already know that Tommy has a motive to want to take out Tasha because of what she did to Lakeisha in the original Power. But again, it is definitely a change because if you saw Force season 1, you know that we covered Force season 1. The way that season ended, Tommy is supposed to be focused on Chicago and getting business in Chicago. So obviously something is going to happen next season that makes him want to revisit his past. Because the Tommy in that show was like, that New York stuff is over, man. I'm focused on Chicago. So they need to show us what happened to make him feel this way. And I look forward to seeing what they're going to show us. But overall, fantastic episode. And the last thing I will say is, as I said, we're not going to talk about spoilers for episode 10 on this episode. But I will tell you this. I said that episode 9 was the best episode of the season. So that might give you a clue as to what I think about episode 10. But we're not going to talk about that until next week. So stay tuned.
Wow, just leaving us in suspense, man. But yeah, excellent takeaways as always. Yeah, great thoughts. And yeah, as you said, like, because we get these screeners early. And we try not to watch too far ahead because we want our reactions on these podcasts to be genuine and stuff. So we try not to watch too far ahead, but I watched that episode 9 and I just couldn't help but I wanted Richard and Dana to see it, because to talk about it, because I needed to talk about it after I saw it. I was like, nah, I gotta get them to watch because this was crazy. But yeah, great thoughts, great takeaways. And I won't delay. We're gonna get into questions. But Dana, you had something to say real quick.
I did have something to say, and then I quickly forgot it. So I'm very upset with myself. But it was really good. So just like say, yeah, Dana, you did
it. I'm sure it's gonna come back to you in a sec. So that's all good. Just let us know when you get it back. But okay, so let's keep the conversation going because we all kind of, talked about it. So let's get right into it, right? Let's unpack this. So how do you think these events will fit into the Force timeline? How is this going to integrate with what happens in Force, season 2? Based on everything that we've seen just in episode 9, just in this episode. But like, how do you think it all ties in? Because, we're all kind of expecting now that Force is gonna be, coming up very soon. And based on what happened in this episode, we kind of get the feeling that there's going to be several crossovers occurring, that we might see some characters show up in Force. So, the question is, what's your vision of how this should go? How do you feel like this is going to play out with, Tommy and Force in Chicago? Is he going to bring Tasha to Chicago? Is Tariq going to go to Chicago? Like, there's so many possibilities. But what do you think is going to be the rollout for this? So who should I get to go first here? Let me see. I'm going to go to you, Dana, just because I'm wondering if this had something to do with what you was going to say. Is it completely unrelated?
Probably unrelated. I don't know because here's the thing. I don't remember the. Okay. Again, no shade. I don't even remember the finale to Force.
Liliana,
I know the girl died.
Rest in peace. Yeah.
Liliana died. Claudia died. I know there's like some Irish people in there who's like, oh, we're gonna get you, Tommy, hey, top in a rainbow. But like, in terms of who died, there was Dahlia in it. The drug, I just answered the question. Dahlia was a drug, right? Mm-hmm. That was like really powerful. So like fentanyl, but it don't kill you like it did everybody else, right? So think of like a non-killing fentanyl that gets you really, really high and maybe sustains you. I don't know. I'm just going by what I see off the news. But like good fentanyl. So wouldn't that be a perfect way to bring to New York? Now, so here's what I'm thinking. Either one of two things. Tommy done kidnapped Tasha. She murdered, she dead, and then we're going to have a face-off. We know that Tommy can't die. We know that Tariq can't die. Something has to happen where there's some kind of, maybe there's an exchange, right? So we have that could happen. Or we can have another route where everyone has to work together. In order to expand the Dahlia business and the enterpriseness of it all, I'm going to give you, Tariq, Dahlia, right? And so this way, I know we're talking about season 2 of Force, but really quickly, what if Dahlia is introduced into Ghost season 3? And in that way, it helps us speed up what we owe Noma. Okay, because we still owe Noma at the end of the day. She may not ever be there. Obi's sitting around begging for green cards, but I don't think Obi can cancel our debts. We need Dahlia because whatever that coke or whatever it is that they're moving is not moving quick enough. And like, to be fair, the market is so oversaturated with coke. Like, does that really do anything for people anymore? Won't you need something new? So to stimulate both the streets of New York and Chicago, let's do Dahlia. That way, a lot of birds and stones are beaten in the head. We don't have to worry about Noma anymore and the money. We can slowly get our freedom and our life back. So, in order for Tariq to understand Dahlia, he has to work with Tommy in order to break it down and to understand it, right? And to see the markets. So, that could be one avenue that we go through with force. Another thing is, I don't know what Tasha and her mindset has been this whole time. If she's alive, if she wants to even go back into the drug business thing, if Liliana has died, does Tasha become a replacement? So I don't know. That could be one way if you incorporate everything. We need a replacement. Tasha's not stupid. She's stupid in other ways, but not in the drug way. So she would be able to fill in those shoes. She would be able to help with the mixing and the processing and the selling of it. And it gives her something to do. Because I don't know. I don't live in the woods under witness protection, but it seems a little boring. So it is what it is. You got that going back, and she's replacing what Liliana's face then died. Liliana then died for. So that is one thing. I don't know how we incorporate Two Bit. I think Two Bit is just off living his life with the new car that he stole, which I think is hilarious and was just a bad omen for Tariq to get the car. Because I'm like, why would you get a car? It's New York City. It's more stress and strain. You cannot find parking here in New York. Parking is expensive. You put it in the garage. It's way too expensive. It serves no purpose. Traffic is not cute. So just take the train. She'll be fine. And the car really should have been stolen. So yay with that. But I don't think we will see Two Bit again. I think he's off living his life and just being happy until somebody writes him another letter. But that's the only thing that I can think of in terms of how do we incorporate Ghost and what is it? What is this called? Power. Yeah, Power. No, Force. Ghost and I can't even remember the name, honey. Do give me something with season 2. So yeah, that would be one thing with there. And then also, I wonder how the Diamond. I know Diamond and Tommy are just in it for whatever that happened that went down in that. But I was wondering if he may need more gangs and more people and more alliances, and so Tariq could join that alliance a little bit for a little while. I don't want you living in Chicago because again, I prefer my shows to breathe on their own without you constantly being there. So if we have to have those crossovers, he could help out a little bit in terms of the guns. Remember, he owes Noma. They're also selling guns. So boom, that takes care of that. I'm really like drowning here, so I'm gonna just stop talking.
No, yeah, great points. And yeah, I do think it would be very interesting if we have, characters from a Ghost interacting with characters from Force, like, because they could have like an interesting kind of, like, let's say they piece it all up, right? Let's say that somehow Tommy and Tariq are able to get on common ground and try to help each other and be cool again, with Tasha and everything. They could have some pretty cool interactions. Like Tommy, for example, could introduce both of his nephews because Tariq is like a nephew, and D-Mac, you got D-Mac, who is his real nephew now. Like, they could have they could do some pretty interesting things if they kind of mix up the cast a little bit and, introduce characters. And then Diamond also, like, Diamond was he was a bit of a passive character in the first season. So I feel like he could learn a lot from people like Tariq and Tasha and, stuff. So yeah, there's a lot they could do with it. But Rich, how about you? What do you think about, how this is going to fit into the Force timeline? And, do you have any particular vision of how this could go with this whole crossover situation that seems to be happening?
Well, I think Dana made a very good point when she mentioned Dahlia. I kind of feel like that is because we spoke about when Force ended for season one. We was trying to think about how they were going to connect the two because you recall at the very end that was when you saw Blanca and her boss is telling her, "Yeah, we got this thing happening in Chicago," but and then they said, "Oh, well, we're not going to worry about that. Let's focus on what's happening in New York with this Tariq St. Patrick kid, whatever." So I kind of feel like that Dahlia drug is a very big part of that. So I'm very curious to see what they do with that in season two. We do know that Claudia and Jannard are now working together and they're selling Dahlia as well. Whereas Tommy and Diamond, they have another version that they know how to make another version of Dahlia. So I will be very curious to see. And I do like the idea of D-Mac interacting with Tariq at some point because it feels like that 100% is going to happen. Tariq maybe meeting Tommy's brother. You know, I mean, a lot of that stuff I feel is going to definitely happen. I think if this is the path they decide to go down, but I do think it does center around Dahlia because that is that they made it the way that Force put the spotlight on that drug. They made that feel as though this is the new must-have drug. So basically, it is a lot more in demand than any other drug that's in the market, and that's why I say that'll be very interesting. Obviously, Tommy can use some assistance if Tariq was to show up in Chicago. You know, I mean, we have to wait and see what happens. But the other thing I do want to mention, though, is, and again, one thing we criticized about Force last season, how they introduced the reporter storyline, and they didn't really do nothing with that storyline. So I kind of feel like that is also going to be a bit of an issue because, like I had mentioned when we did that recap some time ago, I said, you know, that reporter knows about Diamond, but she doesn't know who Diamond has been dealing with. And obviously, Tommy is somebody that they're looking for in Chicago. Clearly, he's still somebody that they're looking for, even though they say he's dead in New York, so to speak. That's what they told us already in Power. He's dead in New York, right? But in Chicago, it's a different story. So that's why I said if she gets too close to Diamond and finds out about this Tommy guy and, you know, says something about this individual, there might be a bit of a problem. So I want to see how they handle that situation. But again, if you throw Tariq into the mix, everyone knows who James St. Patrick was, right? So it makes it a very complex situation. But let's see what happens. But I very much like the prospects of if Tariq or Tasha show up in Force season 2. We obviously have to wait for an announcement. But I will say the last point I will say is, like I mentioned earlier, they need to explain why Tommy had to go back to New York. And I do think we are going to see 2-Bit because 2-Bit obviously is the individual that gave Tommy that information to tell him, oh, yeah, she's possibly, you know, this is where Tasha's probably at. I kind of feel like they are working together, even though they have not shown too much about that. But we have to wait and see if that's what the goal is here. We do know that Tommy said that he got that information from somewhere else, but we'll have to wait and see where they're going with that. But yeah, I look forward to seeing Force season 2. Hopefully, they release a trailer, then we can get a better idea of what to expect from the season.
Yeah, go ahead, Dana.
There's a reason as to why I'm slightly gun ho about Dahlia being the big thing that will cross over both of the shows. Because again, when I talked about the cocaine and everything, boring, boo, basic. Michael Ealy. Michael
Yes.
Ealy is coming in season 4. He is Detective Don Carter. He's not La Blanca in them. He is detective. He's a rising NYPD officer who's on track to becoming a police commissioner. Okay, until his wife is killed in a crossfire between rival drug gangs. Remember, we thought that they was gonna be in like this season and like, oh my God, my wife is dead, and like I vow to kill you and go after you. No, I think that was already the past. The wife has already been dead, and because of that, it inspires him to now become the police commissioner because he says vowing to make the streets safer. Carter traded in his tie for Kevlar vest and now leads an elite NYPD drug task force that elicits concrete results against drug related violence. I think that this Dahlia is going to come here again. Yay, Coke. We didn't touch fentanyl. They could have said fentanyl, but we got Dahlia. I feel that this drug. Well, you could substitute it as fentanyl. Sorry, space data. Okay, My thing is, you have to have a drug that's much stronger. And so here's how Michael Ealy comes in with what is this new Dahlia, right? It's violence on the streets. It's getting crazy. It turns into Gotham City, and we have no Batman, right? So I feel that we need to introduce something that's stronger. And that's why Dahlia fits perfectly with this narrative. And then also on top of that, remember we had a lot of gun-related drug violence throughout this season, right? Remember there was the whole shootout that happened with the Russians and everything else, but it's been contained. If you really looked at it so far, all of the violence and the deaths have been contained. I need something that's going to cause innocent victims for you to start bringing in elite task force. Elite task force is not because, well, Pookie and them, they were fighting again, and now it's just their little case. We need something that is going to be much stronger. We need blood on the streets. We need chaos. And I feel that this could be the perfect way to do both. So if you have sheer violence in force with this Dahlia drug, because remember, it gets you the highest the high, and you craving that and you want that. You're going to be fighting and killing people in the streets for it. Look at San Francisco. So, or New York City. Point is, I'm saying you need something that's going to be a reason as to why you have elite task force. And this could be a great crossover. So I think, and it benefits many of the characters so far. So I'm hoping Michael Ealy. And here's the thing, he's not like guest starring Michael Ealy. He's a series regular. So he is going to have, and they gave him a backstory. He's going to be a character of importance. So I don't think you bring in, and plus he's Michael Ealy. Come on now, we know what Michael Ealy brings. He's gonna probably be a little dirty too. So Michael Ealy in this, he always plays like, he's a light-skinned guy. He's always a little bad guy. But the point is, that's what I think that this character is going to do and why it means so much. And we, as you guys said before, we already had Blanca looking into what was going on in Force. And so we can have like him and Blanca. I can't like Blanca, but still we can have him and Blanca kind of team up. What's going on over here? What's going on over there? And that's just how I feel. So I'm done.
I just want to say that is an outstanding prediction. We need to see that happen. Now you said that, I definitely want to see that happen. And I want to get the version of Michael Ealy that we saw in The Perfect Guy, because that guy was very crazy. So hopefully we get some of that.
Wait, this is also why you got to watch that Hulu show, which name I can't remember, that Michael Ealy was in. And then I don't want to tell you everything because it was a plot twist, but it was very Michael Ealy-y. So you have to watch. You got to watch. It's on Hulu. Reasonable Doubt. You got to watch Reasonable Doubt.
Yeah. Okay. Like, I'll check that out.
So
that's a legal show, right?
That's a legal show. He played like, the bad guy who's wrongfully convicted of a crime. He's real pretty. And things were happening that I can't say, because for those who didn't see it, you got to watch Michael Ealy's performance. You know what you're getting because it's Michael Ealy. Sometimes a little stereotypical, but he's really good with them stereotypical roles. But point is, Michael Ealy.
Yeah, that's a great point. I definitely expect him to play a character with layers. So like he might be on the good side, but I do think he's gonna have a bad side too. Like, because he's that type of actor where he has that kind of duality. Like he has a lot of layers. So I hope they use it wisely. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
It also says nothing can bring back the love of his wife. Remember, the wife is dead. Nothing can bring that back. So he's gonna be like evil and maybe beating up people in the process. He's not gonna be a good cop. He's gonna be shady. And the show thrives on shady cops. This is why Saxe lived so long. Rest in peace to Saxe. This is why Saxe lived so great and so long. He was able to cross both of those sides. And he was just also greedy. So I think that's how more sustainable you are. You got to cross both sides. You cannot be an innocent. You got to be a little reckless. So I'm looking forward to that. And plus, maybe he is the new Saxe in this case. I mean, they killed off him and they brought this guy in. It could be getting too overcrowded, and Saxe has been here for 5,000, 2,500, 600 minutes, so he had to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And and just to expand on that as well, because we've seen so many investigation teams in Power already, and they've always failed. So they need someone who is going to do the things that the others can't do. Like, and Michael Ealy's character is probably going to be that guy that can cross the lines, and he can he could use that gray area and go beyond the limits of what we've seen the investigation team do previously. So I feel like that's what his character will be there to do, to kind of challenge Tariq and the characters in a new way that we haven't seen. So and I do agree that mixing bringing the Dahlia drug to New York is a great idea. I remember we were saying that at the end of Force, that they should do that, and I do think that is probably the direction we're going. I have a theory about how that connects to Noma, but I actually can't say that till the next episode. So I'll save that for the next episode. But yeah, great theories overall on that. How the Force timeline and everything. So let's see here. What should I ask next? So one thing, right? Now remember, we're just talking about episode 9 now, but when you first saw Tariq get knocked out, who did you think it was? Like, what was your theory on who knocked him out? Because I'm sure before people watched the next episode, everybody had a different theory. I'm pretty sure. So who did you initially think knocked out Tariq? So I'm going to go to you first, Richard. What was your thoughts?
Well, that's a great question, Gary, because I saw some wild theories out there. I mean, to be honest, I have a thought of who I thought it was, and then I have a out there thought of who I thought it was. Now, I did think maybe it could have been 2-Bit, because I'm pretty sure that he and Tommy, they somehow connected and had the information on where Tasha was at. So maybe he could have been the one to help. That's who I thought it was. Now, if I wanted to have a way out there theory about who it was, that possibly changed over the course of the last couple of days, because then I found out some information that I did not know. Where we had our very good friend Omari Hardwick doing an interview on the Rich Eisen show, in which he revealed that Stars actually reached out to him to come back as Ghost. And this happened at the exact same time that they were filming this season, because people need to know this season of Power was filmed over a year and some change ago. This show has been off. It's been done for quite a while. They're filming season 4 right now. Okay, so, but he did say in that interview that he had certain things he wanted to do creatively as well. He didn't outright say this was about money, but he said that he wanted to come back if it made sense. But obviously the character is dead. He did feel as though the fans did not get a proper ending for the character, and that is something that he wanted to come back and fix. But obviously, him and Stars did not come to an agreement. He told Stars what he wanted. Stars did not respond back. So I'll be very curious to see if we'll see him in the future, because I think never say never, right? If the fact that they reached out to him, though, and asked him to come back, that's very interesting information. But obviously, it's not Ghost. We already know as Power fans, Ghost is dead. You saw him get shot. That's it. So that limits who it could have been. So again, I do think 2-Bit, because he was in this episode, it could have been anybody that was in Force, because obviously Tommy does have a brother. He does have his friend Diamond as well. Again, I don't know, though, because of how they did it. But I look forward to seeing what happens next week we can talk about this further. But yeah, it's that's why I say, Gary, what you said. If they ended the season or with this episode, that's it. You don't need to. Obviously, people will be angry because they'll be like, "Oh, well, there's so many loose ends I want them to tie up, and I have to wait until the show returns." But clearly, this was the way to end it because there would have been a lot of theories about who was involved in knocking him out and what was going to happen next. But again, they didn't take that route. So let's see what happens from here.
Yeah. And you said something interesting just now. You said the ghost character is dead. Well, I have two words for you. Lauren Baldwin.
Oh yeah, Lauren Baldwin. Yeah. Well, you're right. But the only thing is that Lauren, we saw what happened to Lauren. We clearly saw that she survived, so she's all right. But hey, listen, that does not mean that if Ghost was to return, he can return as somebody talking to Tariq. I mean, he can return as somebody talking to Tommy. What I also find interesting is that there was another thing that was mentioned, and maybe you could say this is Joseph Sikora teasing the fans because he had a post last year when they were filming Force, because Force is also completed, and he had wrote a post saying, "I wonder if Ghost is alive or dead." Force season 2, episode 5. Okay, so clearly that was something put out there as, I guess, a tease. And I'm going to tell you right now what I think that is. I think that is going to be when you're going to see this crossover of what happened with this storyline with, this what we saw in this episode with Tariq. Because clearly, when Force season 2 starts, I don't think it's going to immediately touch upon what happened in this episode. I think that happens later on because, again, they have to explain why all of a sudden Tommy said, I have to go back to New York. I don't think that happens right at the beginning of the season. That probably happens a couple episodes into the season. But that's just my guess. But clearly, again, we'll have to see what happens. But I just found it interesting how Stars did reach out and express interest in bringing him back. So that is interesting. And if he's telling you this, I'm pretty sure I will believe what he's saying. But he also said he's dead. He's not coming back. But it's interesting that they still reached out. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I understand. Everyone thinks he's dead. We saw him get shot, but my stance is still that he is not dead, and if they want to bring him back, they can, because we never saw a body. Like in this episode, we saw Saxe in the morgue. We saw his dead body. We never saw that with Ghost. So
and you saw Kanan dead. You saw Kanan, his dead body, but then you also saw Kanan show up to talk to Tariq as a ghost. So that's why I say, even if the character is dead, that doesn't mean the character can't come back as a ghost. The same thing they did with Raina. Yeah. Raina also came back as a ghost as well. So I'm just saying, it's not impossible, but it has to make sense. And I agree with Amari Hardwick. For him to come back, it has to make sense story-wise. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to come back. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. But so Dana, the question was, who did you, when you first watched it, who did you think knocked out Tariq? And you can also chime in on what we were talking about.
Can y'all please just leave Ghost alone and let him go to the afterlife and live his best life with Angela? Because I can't. He's dead. Let him stay dead. And I don't even know in what capacity was you going to bring him back in, like as a real ghost. Ooh, I'm coming to haunt you. He did that already, kind of, almost. When they did those weird little flashbacks, and I just don't like that. He serves no purpose, sorry, in this whole iteration, because this goes back to my previous statement. Tariq is so far removed right now from what he was with his father that I feel that it's more successful if Ghost does not come back. Let this boy go on his journey by himself without tying up the past. You see how strung up he is about his mama and his grandma and his sister, and now look, he got bashed in the head over it. So, like, I genuinely wish that they would just let go of this storyline and just focus on Tariq. But no, we have Tommy coming back, which again, in the words of Jocelyn Hernandez, why is you here? I don't know. But going with the question of who I thought it was that got him knocked out, um, once I saw Tommy, I thought it was Black Tommy because they travel together. They're thick as thieves. They're all like, we're family. And so I thought it was Black Tommy. Like originally, like the only one that would kind of almost a little bit make sense would be Two-Bit. But again, Two-Bit to me just drove off and he's happy. So I just thought for that moment, maybe it's Black Tommy. And then I thought, well, no, that doesn't make any sense. What if it's just Davis? He was going to go follow Tariq. Because he know that, Tariq is in some mess and everybody's in some mess. And then I thought, well, that doesn't make any sense. What if it's Monet? Because remember, when Saxe wrote the letter, basically saying how Tariq was the one who is a mole and is plotting against the family. And Diana was like, no, that doesn't make any sense. And then she was like, that's why he wanted me to go on the roof. I thought it was Monet, who just so happened to be following Tariq and therefore followed him into the house and then knocked him upside his head. And we already technically had that showdown between Tommy, Monet, and Tariq. So I thought it was like a perfect little bookend of how they did it. So if I could put like that's the final answer, that would be my final answer. It can't be Grandma because Grandma don't make any sense. It was Tasha and Grandma in the house. For Grandma to bop him upside the head, that doesn't make any sense unless Grandma went, bopped him in the head, grabbed the gun, and shot Tommy. But then, what did she do? She just up and kidnapped Tasha and they ran away together? I don't know. So the one that would make the most sense to me would probably be Monet. I don't know at this point. And we all know that Kane also wanted to say Kane tried to kill Brayden, ran him over with the car, hurt the boy's little ribs, which was hilarious. So what's to say Kane was not in the car? It could have been Kane. Right now everybody doesn't know what's going on with anyone. Everyone's looking at Tariq side-eyed. So it could have been any of the Sahara family members.
I just want to make a quick comment because you brought up Davis, and that reminded me that when Tariq, he told Davis that he didn't find any information about where his mom was hiding at. So Davis definitely doesn't know what's been happening with this situation, at least from what we've seen so far. So let's see if that changes moving forward.
But you also know who also would want revenge on him as well? Tate. Because Tate was like, yeah, Weston Holdings is amazing. Please put every single penny that you owe into Weston Holdings. And then remember he made that call because I don't trust that guy.
Well, Tate got his revenge. He is the reason why. He's the reason why I was called in to assist in getting Weston Holdings shut down. So thank you very much, Tate. And you got my vote for sure.
Yeah. But see, and then I'm like, it can't be Tate because of one of two things. Tate doesn't like to get dirty. He doesn't like to physically have to do things.
Yeah.
In terms of like bopping somebody, he'll shake your hand, he'll blackmail you, but like to actually physically bop someone in the head, he just does not do that. He's not a hands-on person. You'll get him for like a white collar crime, but nothing like, oh, he went and committed murder. So it couldn't be Tate either. So to me it was Davis, but then you said no Davis, and then I'm like, well, Black Tommy, because White Tommy there. Where's Black Tommy? And for those who don't know who Black Tommy is, I'm referring to the guy who plays the brother.
Yeah, what was the brother's name?
Can I remember? I don't remember the name.
Richard knows.
Could have been. Richard knows everything. It could have been like Jesse, and I wouldn't have. I didn't even remember. See, he's Googling. We have to all. We're Googling.
I mean, to be fair, this was forced, so no one remembers. But
ooh.
Yeah.
Gary's comments do not represent the coalition. We love force over here. Please let us do your junket. We have no idea what you're talking about.
No, we're about to love the next Force. Yeah,
Yeah, his name is
Oh,
JP.
JP.
that's
Okay,
like
yeah.
such a forgettable name. Even just forgettable. Yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah,
continue to call him Black Tommy.
yeah. I mean, listen, the Force season one was not good. I know there are a lot of people that I know in my circle that saw the show. They all were a little bit disappointed. So, but they still want the show to come back. So hopefully, yeah, season two is significantly
We
better.
want it to succeed because it's
Yeah,
Tommy, and Tommy deserves all of the success and happiness in the world.
yeah.
So we want the show to succeed. So I think us complaining will help the show succeed.
Hmm.
So we love the actors. We love what they can bring onto the screen. Just let them bring their talent onto the screen by giving words that match their talents and storylines and plots. And Joe just be like, he's my son, me old drug addict. And then that's just it. And we drop that storyline. Give us something good and meaty. See, I'm starting to remember the show now. Yay! There was like a daughter in there, and then like the dumb son. See, I'm remembering. Oh, I wonder how that family would mesh with if um Tariq was to go there. How that would mesh together. I wonder. Like, will like the dad start having commit fits because he's seeing all these black people on his property? I wonder.
Yeah, he'll have a fit. He'll have a racist fit for sure.
I
Yeah, seeing more black
Negro.
people.
They're everywhere. Bring back Trump.
No,
Sorry.
but yeah, that's hilarious. But okay, so another question. So Dana kind of already answered this earlier when she spoke about this character, but let we can have another discussion about it, right? So two bit. So I'm wondering if we're gonna see him again, and if we do, when we'll see him again. Now the thing is, in this episode, when he was kind of asking Tariq for his money and stuff, Tariq offered him drugs and guns, and then that's when he said, "And your car too," and Tariq gave him the keys and everything, but he didn't actually get the drugs and the guns yet, right? So that does that mean he's going to come back to collect? And is this going to be a constant cycle of Tariq owing him things? Because maybe he comes back to get his drugs and guns, and then there's some kind of shootout, and he has to help Tariq, and then he never gets his drugs and guns. Like maybe he helps him in the shootout, and then he comes back to Tariq again, like a month later, like, oh, I helped you, so you owe me again. You owe me double what you owed me before. Like this could be a continuous cycle of Tariq owing 2-Bit and him always showing up. So I feel like we're gonna see him again, and I would love for him to be one of the characters that kind of floats between the shows, like between Force and Ghost, because he does have that connection to Tommy, since the first show, and Tariq owes him. So I feel like he's one of those fluid characters that could kind of go. He could go between both shows. Maybe if the Dahlia thing actually happens, he could be the go-between. He could be the runner who kind of transports the Dahlia from Chicago to New York or something like that. So I feel like there's many ways they can use this character. So I would love to see him again, but I wanted to see what you guys thought of that. I know Dana kind of spoke on it earlier, but Richard, what's your thoughts on that?
I think that's excellent if you have him as the person that floats between both shows. I mean, I think we know for sure he is going to be in season 2 of Force. I believe they have to have him in there in some capacity to set up this whole thing that happened in this episode. So yeah, I could see that happening. And yes, having him as the runner for Dahlia, that'd be fantastic because he is familiar with New York. Probably doesn't know too much about Chicago, but he is very loyal to Tommy. So Tommy's going to need people who are loyal to him moving forward as he tries to rebuild his empire in Chicago. So it makes sense to me. But yeah, I think that's a very good prediction. I would say we have to see, but yeah, we definitely need to see more of the character because he has not been around clearly. So I look forward to seeing whatever their plans are for him next.
Yeah, exactly. And what do you think, Dana? Has your stance kind of changed on that? Do you think we might see him more?
I don't want him. But in terms of whether or not there's a need, it could be fun having him around. Remember Liliana was from like season one, maybe. She had the pink sneakers, and that was like season one, maybe season two, early. So they're not, someone that shies away from bringing back the past. And Two Bit does have that past. Um, I think it would be nice to see him just pop around every once in a while, kind of like like you're the guy that you always see on the street that may be a crackhead, but he doesn't mean any harm. But he just pops up every once in a while. You say hi to him, go about your business. So he would be a nice familiar face. But I'm just in terms of storyline, I wonder what does he bring. I think the guns. That's something that Noma has, and we can easily remedy that situation by just giving them like a small, I don't know, maybe like three guns from what Noma has over there. But in terms of the larger scale picture, I just don't know how he would fit in it. So I'm okay with him not really showing up that much. Like I think it would be surprised that we even got him here. But just overall, I don't know how he would really survive. Like what is the point? Unless again, as you guys stated before, he's going to be part of Tommy's team because Tommy, from my understanding, is his team is kind of short.
Yeah, you know what I would like to see? Um, I would like to see a rivalry between the two-bit character and Kane, because like sometimes it feels like Kane's just beating up on little kids a little bit, like with Tariq and Brayden. So like I want to see him challenged by someone, a little kind of his kind of age range or whatever, I guess, or his status in the streets, I guess. Like so if they could set up some kind of, rivalry between Two Bit and the Tejadas or Kane or something, I feel like that would be pretty interesting to see because we haven't really seen him interact with those characters too much. So that would be cool. But but yeah, who knows? I guess we gotta wait and see how they use him. I do agree with Rich that they probably need to use him in Force to set up what happened in this episode. But I don't know if they have any more future plans for him beyond that. But I would hope so. Uh, but yeah. So moving on. One thing we do kind of have to um, process a little bit is Brayden, and because he did finally catch a body. The streets needed a body. The streets got a body, like very literally. They very literally got a body because his Lucas was all over the street. So um, his moment finally came. Kane has kind of been bullying him all season. To well since the last season actually, because he wanted him to kill Lauren too. But yeah, Kane has been bullying him to catch a body, and there's kind of been this whole build up of he has to catch a body to kind of solidify himself, I guess, to become more like Tariq and Kane and stuff. And yeah, it finally happened, and you could argue that this was his body to catch because it involved his family, with the whole Weston Holdings. A lot of people lost their money. Tariq lost his money. RSJ lost money. And Tarders. So Brayden was pretty much on the hook for that. And then Lucas was about to kind of snitch on everyone, so he had to go. and this was Brayden's, this was Brayden's task. So I want to ask you guys: do you think that this will change the character in any way now that he's finally, had to take someone out? And keep in mind also that Lucas is family to him, so it's someone very close to him, someone he has ties to and a connection to. So how do you think this is going to change the character? So I'll go to you first, Dana.
Okay, so yes, because this is so personal. And like I said, this is much better than killing some random Russian on the street who's the connect. Um, this is I don't think that it's going to harden, like, oh, all of a sudden he's going to turn into Jukebox's character. I think more that this is going to make him understand the weight of the consequences of being in the lifestyle that he chose, because initially he just seemed to be really bored and good at it. Um, and it's going to further put that reflection on him. Remember when he was in the hospital and Tariq was like, "Well, you got to talk to Obi," and the dude was like literally half dying, and was like, "Oh, can I just get one day off, play an Xbox, be on Twitch or something?" And he's realizing that this is a nonstop job, and it doesn't care if you're injured or what. And I wonder, just overall in terms of looking at Tariq and the relationship. Remember, he's kind of been the lackey, even though he is, you could argue, the smarts behind this whole operation. He created Crash Coin. And this, now the fact that he did something that actually impacted not just him, but his entire family going forward. I think that this is definitely going to change him. I think he's going to be more aware of what this lifestyle really is and what it means. And I wonder again if it's going to be more of a I 100% continue to choose this life, because that was like the biggest thing for me was wondering, if this looks cute and glamorous when you're on the sidelines, and when you're making plans and you're doing little heist things, that seems really fun. But there are real life consequences to this. And I think that it hasn't happened with the death of Uncle Lucas, but once it starts happening with a death of an innocent that involves him, I wonder how he's going to react. Because remember, it seems to me that every season we need an innocent to die. And for Brayden's story, for him to wanting to be in this game, I think everyone has had someone who died that was close to them. You look at Tommy's whole history of those who died. Even look at what Lakeisha did and how that affected Tasha and Tommy at the same time. Then you look at what Serena's death, how that affected Ghost, right? And then you look at everyone has had like this cross to bear. And even if you was to look at, I believe it was Effie who told him about, the family and being touched. That was a consequence that made her turn a certain way. Brayden overall has not been affected by that, whether it's because of his privilege or just because of the dynamics of his family. Has not been, had that kind of hardship, that personal loss. And I think that this is what makes the character. It either makes him or breaks him. And that is also, again, why I loved the fact that he was the one who pushed his uncle angrily over the beam, and he fell to his death. So I look forward to what happens. I don't know what's going to happen with that character. I don't think he's going to leave, Tariq completely stranded. I think that they're going to be the Tommy and Ghost of it all. But again, he needs something to impact him. You look at Ghost. Ghost is impacted by Angela. So I just need something for him to really, for it to really sink in that this is serious and that this is real. And I look forward to how that impacts him. I just don't know how it's going to impact him.
Yeah, I agree. Because there's this kind of what would you call it? Like there's like this whole conspiracy theory about, Illuminati type stuff, and it's like when you actually kill someone, you kind of change, like there's like a new kind of level of consciousness, like after you kill someone. And that is just a weird myth conspiracy theory, but I feel like it's relevant to Brayden in the sense that now that he has done that, I feel like it is gonna turn on some kind of internal switch in him and make him possibly a more colder character. Maybe not right away, but if you look at Tariq, because of everything that he's been through, it kind of explains how he is able to operate how he does. Where he has this connection to, the underworld and the streets while also trying to kind of develop a normal life as well. But I do feel like the story kind of tries to show that, it's the people who have actually achieved that, level of being able to kill someone that kind of are able to I guess be a leader or show leadership qualities and excel in the streets and stuff. So once you cross that threshold of being able to kill someone, it's like you know you're a whole new, you kind of level up in the streets, I guess. So I feel like we're going to see Brayden kind of go through that transition maybe in the next season or so, and become more of a colder, darker kind of character. And I do think, like you said, Dana, they're kind of setting up another sort of, Tommy and Ghost kind of dynamic here with these characters. So it's going to be interesting to see. But Rich, what do you think about Brayden? Like, how is this, murder going to change him? Like, the death of Lucas, like, how is it going to affect his character moving forward?
Well, I would say I'm very interested to see which direction that they take the character in now, because yes, he did kill Lucas, but he did this out of anger. He wanted to push him off that building, and it was more so a reaction. Now, I don't know if it was intentional in the sense of him meticulously thinking through how to kill somebody. That is a point that he can get to. But he also did this out of protection for KeKe, right? Because she was also very concerned about what would happen. And you saw in this episode when he told his dad what happened, he made it clear that she was not involved, even though we know that she's been involved with Lucas this entire time working behind the scenes on this stuff. So obviously, I kind of feel like as we're looking at this as viewers, as like he did this as a way to protect himself, but also to protect her, make sure that Tariq is good. But again, there are going to be consequences from this because of the information that Lucas told them before he died. So I want to see how that is all handled moving forward. But I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. Also, one thing they told us about Brayden this season is that he does have an independent streak. And he is also smarter than people think. And I think that that is also very interesting because that shows you that if this were to become sort of like a Tommy Ghost dynamic down the road, he's also going to have the mindset, well, what if I want to do my own thing and I don't want to be working with you the entire time? I can do that. So that's why I want to see where they're going with this, because they introduce all these different theories as to you seeing what the character is going through. So we have to stay tuned to see what happens next. But yeah, I'm very curious to see where things go, because as you both alluded to, this is a character this entire season. He's been in this situation where you're working at Weston Holdings, you're doing the drug stuff, but you're only really 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You're not fully in it to the point of actually doing the dirtier things to make you do the certain things. And they did show you that he has a bit of a conscience when he was so appalled by the Ponzi scheme stuff, but yet he is still a drug dealer. So that's why I said I want to see where they're going with this. But I think it's going to get to a point of acceptance and being comfortable in that, because you already told us that he likes doing stuff like this. So he needs to fully come into that and be willing to do all the bad things associated with this type of life. So go ahead, Dana.
It's also really interesting because him being so appalled by the Ponzi scheme, yet he is a drug dealer that inflicts the same amount of pain as say someone who lost all of their money. It still hurts families. And the fact that him being a drug dealer, is a bit more dangerous in terms of it destroys lives way more than say a Ponzi scheme. So that to me was very interesting and still shows that privilege that I think he has by being completely just ignorant and able to do whatever that he wants to do because it makes him feel good inside, and has the audacity to judge other people by not realizing that what he does inflicts even more pain upon families and a network of people and countries and states. I mean, if he was to look at the drug crisis of what we're going through right now, if he was to look at the streets of New York City, and you've seen the reports of San Francisco, that you cannot just deny that the homelessness and how it's interconnected with drug use. And there's a beautiful story in the New York Times about that everyone should read. But to just be like, well, you're the bad guy because you stole everyone's money. It's just completely laughable. And to also, again, it just shows that kind of white privilege that he has. So Brayden has a lot of growing up to do. And I really do hope that he is able to face some hardships because he's sounding really stupid at this point, especially when it comes to that. So yeah, it's we're all friends and everything's great, but look at what you guys do is like terrible. And even if you were to say, "Oh, we're just dealing to Wall Street," those are still people's lives. So then we jump into the morality of it. Oh, well, they're from Wall Street, so therefore, we're okay. And if we use that exact same mind frame, then you would think, oh, well, it's just a Ponzi scheme. It's people who are already rich. But if you dig deep down it, you're also stealing from grandma's pension and retirement funds and charities. And then you're also destroying families on the same other end with the drugs and tearing cities apart and the jail system and homelessness and overcrowding. So yeah, Brayden is really says a lot of privileged things that he is not aware of. And I hope that he also has some kind of reckoning with that. Tommy was slightly different because he never came from money. But this dude is like, he's a Weston, that holds something. It's comparable to a Madoff. So she's stupid.
Yeah, yeah, I like what you said about still kind of showing that privilege and stuff. But they can do some pretty interesting things with that, if they choose to explore those kind of themes a bit more, the privilege he has and stuff and how it affects him and his family. Like they could do some really interesting things with that if they want to flesh that out. But yeah, that's a good observation that you have of Brayden character. But yeah, with that being said, we're gonna get to final thoughts now, and then we'll end off. So I'll just hop in here real quick because mine's pretty quick. My final thoughts, I enjoyed the little Tahada scene at the end where things caught up to Monet. That was a nice little payoff. I would hope that they do something with that and choose to kind of focus on that a bit more and have Monet fully process what happened in that situation with her family turning on her. But you never know with power because things move on so fast. So yeah, but that little scene they had there was a great payoff. And then also I wanted to highlight the Kane lawyer scene where he kind of snuck his way into the I don't know what you call that room, but where Effie is. Basically he snuck in to talk to her, disguised as a lawyer. And that scene, it was a little silly, but I liked it just because it kind of shows another layer to Kane's character, and also it shows the range of the actor's, you know, talent and everything. What's his name again? The actor, Woody McCain, I think. Is it Woody McCain?
McLean.
McLean. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, he is a great actor. I feel like he has a big future as well in the industry. You know, even beyond Power. Like I feel like he's got the kind of talent that's going to transfer, I think, to other places. So seeing that scene was pretty good because he doesn't kind of get to show that side often. And then, you know, you had the fact that Effie kind of shut him down because, you know, he went in there, you know, trying to help her, and he had this master plan to try and help her get out and stuff. And he thought he was doing something really good for her, and she kind of shut it down. Like, you know, I'm not built like that. I'm not going to snitch on Tariq. And then we see he kind of like, he takes it, you know, kind of harsh. Like he takes it badly and stuff. So just seeing that was great. So yeah, I wanted to highlight that. And then, you know, my final thought is, you know, Rich already said it, but I have a lot to say about episode 10. So please tune in next week because it's going to be very interesting. So, you know, I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, those are my final thoughts. How about you, Dana? Do you have any final thoughts?
I got my dinner thing, so I'm happy. It took me a while. I'm happy the fact that, you know, it wasn't like a big secret that was kept over, you know, 2 seasons. Everything kind of came out, and I really do like that. I really wish that I would have gotten a little bit of fighting in terms of people were like, you know, Kane knew everything but didn't say anything. That I think would have just, you know, as a sibling, would have torn me to pieces to be like, one, you cannot trust me with this information, and two, you know, you didn't do anything to not, you know, enact some kind of revenge or something. You played it cool. You didn't even show your emotions in your cards. So that's a very interesting dynamic with the Kane character. I want to know more of what he's thinking because he knows everyone's secrets and he knows what's really happening, and he's not saying anything, and he's still kind of navigating all of this, and he's still trying to be the head of the family in terms of what should go on with the drugs and everything, and then knowing that your mom kind of sucks. Um, and it was very interesting. I wanted to say was the fact that when um, as Evelyn went, her last breath was like Monet. Monet was the one who killed Lorenzo. How Drew didn't react. He said, "What?" And then when, you know, Kane came in, it was like, "What's going on?" He's like, "She ain't saying nothing to me." You know, so it would be really interesting to know his mindset as to what's going on with that and why he wouldn't just blurt it out and say what really happened. What was the point of holding that in? That would be great to know. Um, Also, I was just wondering, you know, if they lost this Rico case, then if they do look into Crash Coin, does that mean the Rico case is over, or is there just another avenue? I don't know law, so I'm really interested in knowing what's going to happen with Crash Coin. With them saying about this, and then also, you know, what never really they never really touched upon again was, remember when they had the guy pretend to be homeless and he saw the Tariq, or he saw like the homeless guy mess around with, no, he was the homeless guy who messed around with the cups, and that's how he was able to figure out the false bottoms and the drugs. We never got a follow up on that in terms of like, oh, here's the drugs with this and that's the drug with that, and that's how it connected. But I thought we would have more of a follow up, more of an investigation into Crash Coin. So I guess they're holding that for the other season. So that should be interesting. But and also, I wonder. Now we stated this before. Monet has to go, and we've seen it in trailers, and we know that I said before that I feel that in the heart of Diana, when she told that to Whitman, she genuinely believed that, you know, she has to go. And so with all of this turmoil and the fact that they know what really happened with Lorenzo, I really am wondering if Monet is going to have her great big downfall. I think it would be more uh, hurtful if she lost her entire family, as opposed to either going to jail for the death of Lorenzo. Um, if the family all turn their backs on her and refuse to acknowledge her, I wonder how she would be able to function and operate. I don't think she'll fall apart, but I think it'll be a long and very lonely road for her. So I would like to see that happen because, again, this character needs some kind of development, and we have not gotten that development yet. She's just angry all the time. And when she's not angry, she's fake and manipulative and trying to fake apologize for being angry. So to me, it's all one note. And I need some different notes to be played. I need an orchestra to be brought in. I need the band. And we're bandless at this point. We're still riding that one note. So I need something to happen to Monet. And that would be really nice. So that's kind of all that I have to say about that. Yeah. And also, are there more letters that Saxe has written that we haven't seen gone out yet? So that should be interesting. Is there more people that he wants to kind of make Tariq's life a living hell from? That should be interesting. I don't know who else is in Ghost or Tariq's past, but is there more people that can be brought back on? We'll see.
Well, yeah, we shall see. We might get an answer to that next week. I don't know, but yeah, we'll see. But yeah, Rich, any more final thoughts from you?
Yeah, final thoughts. I really enjoyed this episode of Power. And as for episode 10, there's a lot to say about episode 10, but we're not going to talk about that until next week. So stay tuned for that discussion. I will, however, just let everybody know, though, no, Saxe did not send out any letters revealing every single detail that happens in season 4. So at least for now, we don't have to worry about that getting leaked. But let's see what happens in the future, shall we?
Oh yeah, that was the theory that Saxe was the real leaker. So you know,
Yeah.
he sent out episode 9 and 10. So there you go.
That would have been hilarious. I still have a theory. I still say it was 50.
Say that again.
I still say it's 50.
Yeah, it is 50.
It makes the most sense. It has to be. He has the biggest grudge, and he's a troll, and he's just hilarious. It has to be.
I think it was him because he like that post he put on Instagram where he had his photo next to the Stars logo. I was like, that's the moment I was like, okay, it was him. He leaked it. Yeah, that was hilarious.
He always leaks it, and he leaks it. I think on like every season something gets leaked, and I think it's him, just so then he can go and brag. See, we have the highest numbers, and they still watch.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah.
This is right out of his playbook because when he was a rapper and he had an album coming out or something, like the way you get people interested in it and get the numbers up is by to get people talking. And this is straight out of his playbook to create marketing, and stuff. So I do think it could have been him. Like he is like the number one suspect. But
I still think it was planned. It might have been planned. I think it's planned.
Yeah, it could be planned. Like this could all be marketing, So.
This could all be an inside job if you really look at it. I don't know, but we've never had, even if you look at all of the shows that have leaked, for example, Game of Thrones, they leak all the time. No show has leaked and it's been a detriment to that show. The numbers will always still be high. People will always still turn in. So it hasn't proven wrong for any show yet. So this could be a great marketing ploy. So who knows?
Yeah. like there are some cases where leaks and bootlegs actually like make more money for the people who put out the product, because that means more people are seeing it and the word is getting out more and more. So yeah, so bootlegs can
Deadpool.
be a good thing. So Deadpool,
Remember
there
the
you go.
leak behind Deadpool, and then we got a whole Deadpool movie.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But people, whoever's listening out there, definitely chime in on the comments. Let us know what you think. Like I said, you can say what you want, but try to keep it about episode 9, because we are gonna, there is gonna be an episode 10 episode next week where we're gonna, talk about everything. But for now, try to focus on episode 9 and what we talked about in this episode. But yeah, let us know your thoughts, and we will see you next week. So take care of yourselves, everyone. Peace out.